I'm Dan Greenawalt, the creative director at Turn 10. We make FORZA Motorsport.
Let's talk a little bit about what Xbox One has opened up for you guys as racing video game developers.
First off, Forza 5 is our most ambitious title to date, and it's because we're actually bringing a full FORZA Motorsport at the launch of a console. And what's really cool is actually being there at launch, one, because it's a lot of exposure for our franchise, which is great, but also we're in on the ground floor designing the platform. So we were working with a platform team 3 years ago to talk about what we thought the next generation would be, what sort of power we needed, and what we wanted to deliver to our fans. So that is things like native 1080p resolution, 60 frames per second, having Azure, the cloud, able to create cloud-powered opponents, drivatars, which I've struggled to explain to people, so I just don't anymore. What I can say is they drive just like people in a really cool way. You see them tricking you, they do really complex behavior, and it really changes what single player feels like. It's not ghosts, it's not like traditional AI, it's just different. You're gonna have to get your hands on it and judge for yourself. We have great multiplayer, fast and fair through Smart Match, as well as dedicated servers. So there are a lot of things that came along with the Xbox One that we, as developers, almost got for free. But for us, the big thing was having that look, the imperfections that make the world more real. So having orange peel on the paint, scratches, weeds growing up through the tires, all those imperfections, it's not about poly count, that becomes about materials, about light, about shaders. And so the Xbox One does a great job of giving us things like cloud-powered opponents, dedicated servers, has the power to do all these complex materials and still run at a solid 1080p, 6 frames per second, with anti-aliasing, with motion blur. The game looks great.
What is it about the racing genre that makes it so important for the launch of a new console?
The racing genre has really accompanied console launches forever, right? Ridge Racer, Project Gotham, great games. Generally, the games are in tunnels, which means you can really control for your performance, and they're easier to test that way. That's not really the case with Forza. The truth is that Forza's got so many permutations. We have over 200 cars, we have over 40 ribbons. This is a full Forza Motorsport 5 at the launch of the console. So it's actually not that easy to test. We have a full livery editor, you've got all these upgrades, all these visual upgrades. So we've kind of, in some ways, this is not the game you would choose as a launch. We felt that our team was prepared to actually deliver that. The other reason you do it is because they can look great. Cars are a wonderful medium for showing off great graphics. And so having these beautiful cars, Ferraris, open wheel cars, with 1080p, with 60 frames per second, really shows off the power of the box.
Do you have a favorite car, and if so, can you kind of give us some tips on how to drive it?
Well, we've got new technology in this game. Some of the things we're doing in physics simply weren't possible in the last generation. And some of that's the tires, and some of that is with our suspension architecture. It creates a lot of need for power, and we're using that. So we've added open wheel cars, so things like the Ariel Atom, cars like the GP cars, old and new. Those sort of open wheel cars are very tricky to drive, but also they are very hard to simulate. So right now, the cars I drive a lot, I drive the McLaren P1, which is on our cover. It has a very complicated suspension, and it's also it kind of defies physics. I drive the open wheel cars because I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around high downforce, and it's cool. It's fun for me to experiment with. I've fallen in and out of love with cars, and so having over 200 cars in the game means I'm always experimenting with new cars. I can drive one car for 2 days. It's going to take me years to get through all of them.